My mother's laugh echoed across the high-security checkpoint, loud, condescending, and deliberate. My daughter? No, she's just the plus one. 20 years in uniform and she's still just a desk clerk. My sister giggled beside her, adjusting her expensive designer coat. They had dragged me along to a prestigious gala at the naval base, expecting me to park their car while they mingled with elite military brass. They didn't notice the armed guard at the gate freeze. He looked down at my VIP credentials, then at my face, and then at the gold oak leaves and command insignias pinned beneath my civilian coat. The color drained from his face until he turned as white as a sheet. His hands shook as he bypassed the main console and grabbed the red emergency line. "Get the base commander on the line now," he choked out into the receiver. "We have a high-ranking officer at the gate." My name is Elena Voss, and at 42 years old, I have spent half my life learning that the loudest voices in a room are rarely the ones carrying any real weight. For as long as I can remember, my mother, Evelyn, operated on a strict hierarchy of status. At the very top was my younger sister Chloe, the golden child whose every breath was treated like a historic achievement. Then there was Chloe's husband, a mid-level government contractor whose ego was larger than his actual paycheck. And then, there was me. To my mother, my 20-year career in the United States Navy was nothing more than a mild disappointment. Because I never bragged about my deployments, never brought my work home, and kept my high-clearance intelligence roles completely classified due to military protocol, Evelyn made her own assumptions. In her mind, if I wasn't wearing a flashy suit or making corporate partner, I was a failure. She genuinely believed I spent my days filing paperwork in some windowless basement. So when Chloe's husband managed to score entry passes to the annual Flag Officer Gala at the Naval Air Station, Evelyn was beside herself with pride. She called me not to invite me out of love, but out of convenience. "Elena, you drive a larger SUV," she'd said coldly over the phone. "You can chauffeur us, and since you're in the Navy anyway, maybe you can park the car. We even got you a +1 pass so you don't have to wait in the cold." I just smiled, holding my tongue. Little did she know I was already attending that gala. The evening of the gala arrived and the atmosphere inside my SUV was suffocating. My mother sat in the front passenger seat, adjusting her oversized silver necklace in the visor mirror, while Chloe reclined in the back, obsessively reapplying her designer lipstick. I wore a dark, heavy overcoat buttoned up to my chin. Underneath was my formal dress blue uniform, adorned with gold oak leaves and 2 decades of earned metal ribbons, but to them, I was just wearing something sensible for a cold night. "Try not to jerk the car around, Elena," Evelyn snapped as I merged onto the highway toward the naval base. "Chloe's dress cost more than your monthly salary. We can't have it wrinkling before we even step foot inside." "Yes, Elena," Chloe chimed in, checking her nails. "Mark's boss is going to be there tonight. Real high-ranking officers, captains, maybe even an admiral. People who actually made something of themselves in the military instead of settling for a boring office job." Evelyn chuckled, patting Chloe's knee. "Well, dear, not everyone has the ambition for greatness. Some people are just born to be background noise. Isn't that right, Elena?" I kept my hands firmly at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, looking straight ahead at the coastal highway. I didn't say a word. I didn't defend myself, nor did I mention that the real high-ranking officers they were so desperate to impress were men and women I called by their first names. The high concrete barriers and harsh halogen lights of Gate 1 loomed ahead as we approached the main entrance of the Naval Air Station. Armed Master-at-Arms personnel stood in tactical gear, checking credentials with sharp, methodical precision. The atmosphere was tense and controlled, the kind of strict security environment I had spent 20 years navigating. Evelyn leaned out the passenger window before the car had even come to a complete stop, putting on her most dramatic high society smile. She cleared her throat loudly, trying to catch the attention of the lead sentry. Good evening, young man, she announced in her most theatrical voice, waving a heavily manicured hand. We are here for the Flag Officer Gala. My son-in-law, Mark, is a key executive, and we were personally invited by Commander Harrison's office. You can go ahead and expedite us through. The guard, a young petty officer with steady eyes and a rifle slung across his chest, didn't blink. He walked up to my window, perfectly professional. Good evening, ma'am. Driver, I'll need IDs and event credentials for everyone in the vehicle, please. As I reached into my coat pocket to retrieve my military ID, Evelyn let out an insufferable, dramatic laugh. She leaned back toward the guard, shaking her head with a smirk that dripped with condescension. Oh, don't worry about her, Evelyn declared, loud enough for the secondary guards nearby to hear every word. My daughter? No, she's just the +1. 20 years in uniform, and she's still just a desk clerk. She's just dropping us off at the entrance so we don't have to walk in the cold. Chloe giggled from the back seat. I said nothing, calmly handing my official ID card to the guard. The guard took my ID card and ran it under the scanner attached to his tactical vest. A soft beep echoed through the cool night air. He glanced down at the screen, and I watched the exact second his posture completely changed. His shoulders went rigid. He tapped the display, then looked back up at me through the open car window. His eyes widened as they took in my features, comparing them to the high-clearance profile flashing on his system. He looked down at the official guest roster, his thumb frantically tracing the VIP list until it landed on my name. Commander Elena Voss, Senior Intelligence Officer, honored guest of the Chief of Naval Operations. The guard's jaw dropped slightly. The arrogance in the car instantly vanished, replaced by a sudden, heavy silence. The petty officer looked at my plain black coat, catching the subtle gold oak leaf peeking out from the collar. The color drained from his face until he turned as white as a sheet. Ma'am. Commander Voss, he stammered, his voice dropping an octave as he snapped into a crisp, razor-sharp stance. I apologize, Commander. We weren't informed you'd be arriving in a civilian vehicle through Gate 1. Evelyn's smile froze. Commander? She repeated, her voice high and confused. Young man, you must be mistaken. She's just a... Quiet, ma'am! The guard barked, completely ignoring my mother. His hands shook as he reached past his standard radio console and grabbed the heavy red phone mounted inside the security booth, the direct line reserved exclusively for emergency notifications and flag officer arrivals. Base Command, this is Gate 1. He spoke urgently into the receiver. Get the commander on the line now. We have a high-ranking officer at the gate. Within 45 seconds, the heavy quiet at Gate 1 exploded into precise, coordinated action. The hydraulic security barricades ground into the pavement, and 2 Black Security Forces patrol units came roaring up from the interior post, their red and blue lights flashing against the tarmac. The rear passenger doors of the lead vehicle swung open, and out stepped Rear Admiral Henderson, the regional installation commander himself, flanked by the base master chief. He adjusted his cover, sweeping his eyes across the gate until they landed on my SUV. In the passenger seat, Evelyn was practically hyperventilating. What is happening? She whispered, her voice trembling as she clutched her handbag. Chloe, is this because of Mark? Did Mark set this up for us? Chloe didn't answer. She was staring out the window, completely paralyzed as 2 armed guards took positions on either side of our car. Admiral Henderson marched directly to my door. Before I could even unbuckle, he snapped a razor-sharp salute, holding it until I rolled my window all the way down. Commander Voss, the Admiral announced, his voice carrying the effortless authority of 30 years in command. Welcome back to NAS North Island, ma'am. We were expecting your official escort at the main terminal, but the gate reported your arrival. It is an honor to have you with us tonight. Thank you, Admiral, I replied calmly, returning his salute. My apologies for the surprise entrance. I was providing transportation for my family. The Admiral glanced past me at Evelyn and Chloe, who were frozen like deer in headlights. His eyes narrowed slightly as he registered their bewildered expressions. I see, the Admiral said, turning his focus back to me with absolute deference. Allow us to escort you directly to the VIP reception, Commander. The floor is yours. The police escort cleared a path straight to the grand entrance of the Officers' Club. As the SUV pulled up to the red carpet, I unbuttoned my plain black overcoat and stepped out into the crisp night air. Underneath, my dress blue uniform gleamed under the venue lights, the gold oak leaves on my collar, the Command Ashore insignia on my chest, and 5 rows of metal ribbons representing 2 decades of service, including 2 Defense Meritorious Service Medals. A quiet gasp escaped my mother as she stepped out behind me. Evelyn's jaw dropped so low it looked painful. She stared at the glittering array of brass and gold on my chest, realizing all at once that her desk clerk daughter was one of the most decorated intelligence officers in the room. Mark, Chloe's husband, was standing near the entrance with a group of junior officers. The moment he saw me, his glass of champagne wobbled in his hand. He immediately stood at attention, his eyes wide with absolute shock. Evelyn rushed forward, her voice suddenly high and overly sweet as she tried to grab my arm. Elena! Oh, my brilliant girl! I was just telling the guard how proud we are of you. Look, everyone, this is my daughter. Ma'am, please step back. A young lieutenant politely but firmly cut in, guiding Evelyn and Chloe toward the general guest line. Senior officers and foreign dignitaries immediately moved in to greet me, shaking my hand and thanking me for my leadership on recent joint operations. As I walked into the main ballroom surrounded by top military brass, I glanced back one last time. Evelyn and Chloe were left standing on the sidelines, completely ignored, watching in stunned silence as the daughter they had spent 20 years belittling was treated like royalty. The ride home was filled with a heavy, unbroken silence. The constant stream of insults, petty critiques, and condescending remarks from Evelyn and Chloe had completely vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of shame. In the rearview mirror, I could see my mother staring out the window, her hands trembling slightly against her knees. For 20 years, she had built her entire worldview on a carefully constructed lie, that Chloe was the star of the family and I was just an insignificant disappointment. In a single evening, that illusion had shattered beyond repair. Elena, Evelyn finally whispered, her voice cracking as we pulled into her driveway. I didn't know. Why didn't you ever tell us? I parked the car, shifted into rank, and turned to look at her calmly. Because, Mom, I didn't serve my country for 20 years to get your approval. I did it because it was my duty. True respect isn't something you demand through status or vanity. It's something you earn quietly. Neither she nor Chloe had anything left to say. They got out of the car without another word, stepping into the dark night as 2 people who finally had to face the reality of their own arrogance. As I drove away, back toward my own life, a quiet sense of peace washed over me. I didn't need revenge, and I didn't need their apologies. The gold oak leaves on my collar, the respect of the men and women I served with, and the satisfaction of knowing who I truly was, were more than enough. Real authority doesn't need to shout to be recognized. It simply stands tall and lets the truth speak for itself.